Mike here, Christian Victory Blog. I'm so glad you could join me. Today we're going to be talking about Antarctica and Australian flight paths from Sydney to Santiago and Sydney to Buenos Aires. If you have not already, I strongly encourage you to pick up our book, The Blueprint, the World's Secrets Declassified Bible. Inside this book you'll find some very amazing facts about satellites, the way your ground GPS-based systems work, and why you point your satellite at absolutely nothing to watch TV. So, let's get started. Alrighty, so this started with a video from TigerDan. He was debunking the flat Earth map, the Azimuthal Equidistant, I believe it's called. And a lot of people were distressed, and I got tons and tons of emails from people, and not only that, I got tons of comments from people in my group about the way TigerDan behaved and calling flat earthers stupid. So let's take a look at this and see how this flight that threw him off so easily from Sydney, Australia to Santiago. Let's listen.
What I'm seeing is people who are just ignoring this issue, which is actually it's a massive issue, and I think it's really important that we understand this map here. This is the Azimuthal, and a lot of people are under the opinion that yeah, that's the flat Earth map. It's reasonable, and that's a symbol of the flat Earth movement. And to me, that's not sound. And I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with this map. And so I measured out. I took I can't remember how many airports I used. It was probably about 40, and I checked all the distances, and nothing fits on this map at all to any kind of scale. So take Australia for example, and don't forget this is the best flat Earth map that's ever been created, and nobody else in history has made anything better than this. So this is the best that we've got, and it's a load of crud.
All right, well, let's just see how much this map is a load of crud. First of all, this is a projection used by the USGS and the National Atlas of the United States of America, and its large-scale mapping of Micronesia is useful for showing airline distances from center point of projection and for seismic radio work. The bottom line is this map is used by the airlines. It's not a map that shows distances. It's not a map that's going to get you perfect calculations how far from point A to point B is, but it is a map used for the routes airlines take, and it is extremely accurate. So you're not going to ask me what a JPEG is? All right, so for those of you who know the flat Earth map is not crud, there was a flight that left Taiwan headed to Los Angeles, California, LAX, and the China Airline flight, which was departed from Taiwan, was diverted to Anchorage. So they were heading to Los Angeles, and they diverted to Anchorage. Why? Well, this woman decides that it was time to have a baby. And then we scroll down here, and we see all these people here that post it. Not one of them, they're asleep. They live on a ball Earth. Not one of them made a comment concerning how or why would they divert to Anchorage. Let's take a look at it. This, I guess I pulled this off Google Maps. Okay, so here's where they started, and they were flying along. No, the airplane's not drunk. I'm just not drawing straight. And they were headed there to Los Angeles, LAX airport. Woman starts having baby here. Okay, now the best route on this map would fly to Honolulu or Waikiki, because Hawaii's right here. Okay, instead they do something incredibly strange on this globe Earth map. What they do is they divert and go straight up here to Anchorage. Now, this doesn't make sense if the Earth is in fact curved and spinning. If it's a ball, if it's round, just like NASA shows us in all their videos, it's a perfect circle. You know, Big Bangs, they create perfect spheres in space with water on them. No trouble. Just blow something up and you should end up with 2 or 3 perfect spheres in orbit around each other. And so the flat Earth map shows us, let me turn off my thing. Let's look on this flat Earth map. Here it is. Zoom out a little bit. There's Taiwan. The flight started here. This is a flat Earth map. Baby starts coming here. The best course, the quickest place to land to help this child and the mother would have been here. That's Hawaii. Okay? However, since they were flying on a real world, mapped by real world observations, they diverted to Anchorage. It's right there. It's along the way. To ANC. Stevens Airport, Anchorage, Alaska. Once again, proving that our azimuthal equidistance is not crud. It saved a child's life. And this is why the airlines use it. Because it's correct. The distances may not be accurate, but that's not what it's for.
To fly from South America to Australia, on this particular map, you'd have to fly from here over America and into Australia with no Antarctica. And all the pilots have come out and said that they fly over water continuously. It's continuously over the sea, and they don't fly over land for the entire duration. And the pilots are saying that it's very boring to do that particular flight because they're always over the water and they never get to see any land. So if they do fly from Santiago, Chile, which they do because I've checked the flights, then you'd think that the pilots would know that they've flown over America to get to Australia. So that proves that it's in the wrong position there. But even if it's in the right position...
Okay, so let's check out this flight. The video was posted by a man named Sam Chu. In the video, he did a lot of talking about his flight route, kept showing it to us over and over. And then he's asleep and he says he was just called up into the pilot cabinet, or the cockpit, and the pilots wanted to talk to him. I know that's a big problem in the airlines. You're sitting there minding your own business, reading a book, trying to get a nap, and the pilots are always calling us up there in the cockpit. And they want to explain all their flight plans, their flight routes, and they want to show us all their pretty instruments, and they want to show us what each button does. It's an epidemic in the airline industry. I think I just wish they'd stop and give us a break. Let us sit in our seats, let us take our naps, and let us do our flights. So, Sam Chu spends a whole lot of time in the video going over the flight routes, going over the fuel. He goes over, how close he is to Antarctica, and then he's asking a bunch of questions about Antarctica to the pilots. Can we land there? What are the penguins' names? Does your aunt live there? Are there any houses there? Any bases? And then he, once again, he tries to reiterate over and over, this is a nonstop flight. And, well, let's check this out. He was aboard the Airbus A340-200, the A340-200. There is a version of that actually is able to fly further, but this one only does 7,710 miles range. That's with fuel, that's with perfect conditions, and after that, it needs to be refueled again. The cruise speed of this plane is 565 miles an hour. And the trip to Sydney to Buenos Aires is 7,328 miles. So that means that if this plane was a nonstop, as Sam Chu suggests, or Chu, or whatever his name is, as he suggests, then this plane flew in perfect conditions and arrived over Buenos Aires with only 382 miles left of fuel. FFA regulations state that you need a half an hour of fuel to account for flight holding times, like for waiting your turn to land, and you need another half an hour just in case for emergencies or if you have to fly out and around or something like that. That's a total of 1 extra hour. And you can travel a whole lot of miles in a plane in 1 extra hour. Another thing, Australia and all its nonstop flights are the ones that are listed nonstop, such as Perth to Johannesburg. They have to stop at Coco Island to fuel. And if you're going to like Santiago or Buenos Aires, you have to stop in Auckland, New Zealand to fuel. That's the rules. This way the planes can arrive at their destinations with an extra 1,000 miles of fuel. And to be honest, stopping at these two destinations only takes an extra hour of time. It doesn't take that long. So bottom line is, this plane Sam Chu was flying in, there is no way they would let it do a nonstop from Sydney, Australia. And I fully believe that the pilots were not being fully honest either. Although one pilot did say this flight, total airtime, flying, he said, takes a total of 16 hours and 45 minutes. And that's kind of strange itself. See, here's the other thing. When I went to go look at the airline flight miles between destinations, I come to find that they were much farther than the Google Earth miles. Okay, Google Earth subtracts around anywhere from 50 to 300 miles every time you look up a destination and you compare it to the airline miles. I don't know why that is, and we know we don't have a perfect map of anything, so that could explain it, but it makes it hard to figure out exact times. But it makes it real easy to pad miles around the flat Earth and make things appear different than what they really are. We already know in our northern hemisphere, north of the equator, all planes fly a flat Earth map, no problem. And we have proven that over and over. So there's really no reason to get bent out of shape about the flat Earth map once we go south of the equator. Here's another thing. If the airline pilot was being correct in that they can be up in the air for 16 hours and 45 minutes, and the cruising speed of the plane is 565 miles, and they're doing that the whole time, well, then there's an extra 2,000 miles added to the flight somewhere. And that just doesn't make sense. And I found that on some other flights also. So, we're going to, who is this Sam Chu? And why is he in the cockpit of this airplane? We're about to find out. Alrighty, so let's...
It sounds better.
Thank you for cutting in my video there, hon.
Honey, I'm sorry. I thought we were still talking.
We were, but I'm doing a video. So I'll get right back to my video. I've never done one of these, so... Anyways, Sam Chu, here he is. He's actually in an Iranian jet. He's in Iran. These kind pilots just had to have him up there to visit. There's their flight book or their comic books. I don't know what that is right there. And he takes all these beautiful pictures of the food and yeah. This guy is able to get into any airport anywhere he wants. And his website is full. He's always invited to the cockpit. He gets to go to any gate he wants. He gets to hang out anywhere he wants. And there's been a lot of talk about this guy on certain forums. They're like, who is this guy? What's he do? And Sam Chu doesn't do anything that we can tell that makes him money. He just goes around boarding airplanes. Come to find out, his parents supposedly are wealthy, and he has a degree in psychology. That's about all we know about him. But here's something else you should know about him. Uploaded by Mark Simon, author Sam Chu. What's that? Anybody see that name there? What's that say? What's that say on that plane? Folks, that flight posted on YouTube was fake. Okay? It came off the discussions from the Flat Earth Society because a lot of flat earthers are having a hard time with these flight routes. That video was planted. It seemed innocent enough, but they know one of us are going to find it. Because anytime we see something like Sydney to Santiago, Chile, we're on it like white on rice. And this is what a guy connected to NASA made TigerDan throw away the flat Earth map and call us stupid. Okay, so TigerDan said that it would look like this. The plane, I actually think I took a picture of that plane because it went over my house. Reality, the plane did this. Okay. In the video, when you looked out the window, according to Sam Chu, and we cannot take anything he says as truth because the flight times he posted did not match what the pilot said. But according to Sam Chu, they saw land after 10 hours of flight. Yeah, well, possibly here, and you add another 6 hours to Buenos Aires. Okay? This flight had to fuel in Auckland. I'm not sure which one here, but they had to fuel in Auckland, New Zealand, and they had to take the path here. When I went to go check Qantas's reviews, I was looking for this flight. Skytrax is the main review site for these airlines. And out of 100, and there were a lot of them, I spent 2 hours doing this, there was only 2 reviews that mentioned Sydney to Santiago, Chile. Okay? They didn't say if they were one-way, nonstop. Didn't say if they flew to Miami and hung out on the beach and flew down to Santiago. It didn't say that. It just said they were from Sydney to Santiago. And neither review mentioned anything about Antarctica, taking pictures of Antarctica. One review complained about the staff. The other review went on and on about how great the food was. It's not in the review, folks. It's just not here. A whole lot of reviews complaining about holdover times in Auckland, holdover times at Coco Island. Because when they land a fuel, they don't take off right away. Sometimes they'll sit for 5 or 6 hours. But nothing in reviews that even remotely suggests there's these super fast one-way routes. In fact, when I went to go look at a ticket, this is a one-way route. It takes off from Santiago. It goes to Sydney. The strange things about these flights is that they vanish and show up. In the few hours I was checking them, they would come and go. I could get one, then I couldn't get one. It was very strange. Another thing strange about these so-called one-way trips is that if you get a ticket that flies from Sydney to New Zealand, Auckland, then to Santiago, there's only an hour added to the difference of the flight. That's it. That's all that's added. Another thing I found interesting, I'll show you. Land's another major airline in Australia. They are actually contracted by Qantas. They're connected. But listen to this. Land considers a direct Sydney-Santiago flights on the Boeing 787-9. So this flight would not stop in New Zealand. Okay? The 787-9 allows us to think of many possibilities, and a direct flight between Sydney and Santiago will be possible. Because the range of the 787 is not quite there, said LATAM Airline Group Managing Director. So the current airplane that they have, which is the 787-8, just doesn't make the flight. Well, let me explain something to you. All these flights, these one-way flights in Australia and Qantas, they're fake. They're completely fake. because the fastest, longest range plane Qantas has, okay, is the, let me find it on here, is the 747-400. It has a range of 8,357 miles. Its top speed is 614 miles per hour. Probably brings it around a cruising speed of 558 miles an hour. The 787-8 has a max range of 8,786 miles. Okay, and Boeing says, see, Boeing gives a different number. One's a Wikipedia, one's from Boeing website, 9,200 miles. So I'm thinking the manufacturers also pad the miles on the range of these planes. But the 787 is a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It has a system designed to be 20% more fuel efficient than Qantas's best plane, the 747-400. Okay? According to LAN Airlines, their 787-8 won't make the flight nonstop from Sydney to Santiago. But Qantas claims their plane with far lesser capabilities has a route nonstop from Sydney to Santiago. Folks, it's not true. None of it's true. These flight routes are padded. They know what they're doing. They don't exist. Nobody goes on them. There's no such thing as nonstop flights coming out of Australia. If there was a 787-9, I would say yes, okay, because that plane can do it. But according to LAN, their own 787-8 won't make it. Okay? But Qantas claims the 747-400 magically makes this flight. Not going to happen. Here's another thing. There's more miles between Sydney and Santiago than what they're listing. And you can prove that by cruise speeds and flight times.
The only way that all those passengers who have taken, from what I can see, tens of thousands, maybe even possibly millions of pictures,